Welcome back to Comic Quarantine. This week we'll be talking about a dystopian graphic novel that was made into a very dark movie, which was directed by the now critically acclaimed director Bong Joon-ho, Snowpiercer. We will be primarily talking about the title Transperceneige, which is a science fiction post-apocalyptic French graphic novel written by Jacques and Roulet and published by Casterman. The graphic novel was first published in 1982, later retitled The Escape. On 2014, it was translated in English by Titan Comics.
The following is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion advised.
Firstly, the movie and graphic novel are quite different to each other in terms of characters and plot. The base plot remains the same, with the last of humanity living on a giant train with over 1,000 carriages due to a global environment catastrophic event which induces an ice age. Society is explained in a linear way. At the front of the train you have the rich, and at the tail you have the poor. The story follows a man named Prolof as he journeys his way from the back of the train to the front. He is neither a hero nor a villain, a refugee from the tail, determined to never go back. In his journey forward through the train, he hopes to reach the mythical engine and perhaps find some hope for the future. He is later joined by a woman named Adeline Below, herself part of a movement to integrate the members of the back railway cars who live in squalid conditions into the rest of the train. This claustrophobic tale hurtles you through this microcosm of life. Class, caste, social and political themes are wrapped up in an apocalyptic story taking place on a train. The train can never stop, and each train section clearly is a statement on social stratification. One can say life is a struggle in every sense, especially for the poor. And here we see that manifested in a battle along the train, a mini revolution in a small space. Both movie and graphic novels show a fantastic job of a complex world of politics and economics shrunk down into an easy to understand train. We can't hate the upper class really, because some of the people fit in there and are born into privilege. Now, where do they get food? How is it stored and grown? Everything is also touched upon, and the solutions are well thought out. First, the poor must take on and win over the army, whose leadership is a real issue. Then they all must move on to overthrow the political and religious leadership. On top of all that, social commentary. There's also a religious aspect of it all, with the engine of the train taking place as a godlike figure. The hate and disdain the front end has for the back is disgusting, and only worsens as closer to the front Prolof gets. I found the sexual debauchery of first class quite believable, and wouldn't expect less in real life. Prolof's seduction into it was also well done, as anyone from his situation would be more than happy to join in. There's no future in this world, and everyone is doing what they can to ignore the situation. No doubt it's bleak stuff, but so compelling it's hard to put down. While all of Snowpiercer is well written and presents wonderful political issues and themes, some things bothered me. The pacing is slow, especially at the beginning. As Prolof is led to the front, it feels as if we see every carriage in the front half only. Prolof and others talk only of the rear carriage's horrors vaguely. While what is explained as horrible, the current state of the rear is never shown, leaving the reader unclear as to what specially drove Prolof to escape. The escape is also never shown, leaving both characters and readers questioning how he survived in the deadly and harsh climates outside the train. Other minor character interactions are strange, such as Prolof and Adeline's quick desire to get down and dirty so soon after meeting is weird. This book is also misogynistic as hell. The women's characters were either sex objects or have to be saved and are chased by men, which irked me throughout considering the movie had some solid female characters. Towards the end of the book, there's a brief time jump which makes things end in a cliffhanger, probably to make the reader pick up the next volumes.
Now let's see some of the differences between the comic and the graphic novel.
Number 1. Color. Le Transperceneige was published in black and white, which renders the snowy scenes plain and very white. Rochette uses the various shading techniques to give the novel some stark visuals, which helps highlight the atmosphere of this gloomy story. Joon-ho's film is in glorious color, not always of course given the dark subject and the fact that most of the story takes place on a train. On screen, snowy mountains and frozen cities can be vibrant and glaring, but you can feel it's a bit of CGI. And intro scenes are given the appropriate palette and warmth dictated by the plot. Number 2. Romance. The novel carries a hint of romance between the main characters, mostly fleeting moments of togetherness as they traverse the train carriages. This love affair is given little chance to grow or even make sense in the course of the story, but it exists. In the film, our hero Curtis, Chris Evans, isn't given a romantic lead, so there is no amorous subplot to propel the story or give the characters depth. With the breakneck speed of both the train and the movie, there is no time to fall in love. Number 3. Outside the train. The graphic novel surely intended to show next to nothing of the world outside Snowpiercer, focusing on the bleak life of the passengers that, as mentioned, suggests the path many of us live on Earth. What's happening to the world encased in winter is inconsequential to the novel, other than to let the viewers know that disembarking the train leads to a painful and frozen death. Not so for Junho's movie. As the train whizzes along, we are treated to many fantastic CGI vistas of the frozen planet, including cities, factories, and mountain ranges. In fact, the supposed inhabitability of the Earth is a key plot point for the Snowpiercer's film, so the audience need occasionally glimpse out of the window. Number 4. R-rated. For a bleak, grimy movie, Snowpiercer does not garner an R rating. Although it could for violence, including a nighttime hatchet battle in a crowded railcar, both director Joon-ho and novelist Lob takes pains to express the violent life that passengers, that is, all Earth dwellers, can experience just to survive. However, the graphic novel puts its main characters into several adult situations as participants and observers, and doesn't shy away from illustrating the seedy underbelly of a crowded train. Whether the story is better off with these scenes is up to the reader, but they certainly add up a vulgar quality to the graphic novel. Thankfully, Hollywood has learned that strong female characters can be added to a story in a non-sexual fashion, and Snowpiercer is headed in this direction. Whereas the graphic novel had one female character of consequence, in Joon-ho's film we get an evil bureaucrat Mason, played by Tilda Swinton, a rebellious passenger Tanya, played by Octavia Spencer, a drugged-out kid Yona, and a duplicitous teacher. It's also worth noting that the women in Snowpiercer play both good guys and bad guys, and the graphic novel could have been enhanced with more depth here. Number 6. Backstory. Director Joon-ho seems disinterested in telling the audience how the world came to an end, or what caused the catalysm that sent people scrambling about the Snowpiercer. His film is focusing on telling Curtis' journey from carriage to carriage, class to class, and the why of the train's voyage is less paramount. There's a brief shot of the around the world part of the Snowpiercer, which geographically did not make sense to me. The graphic novel provides a very rough explanation for the train's expedition in flashbacks and in a simple exposition. Maybe the journey is more important than the destination for both stories, but it helps to give the audience a hint as to why the Snowpiercer is what it is. Number 7. Characters. It may seem odd that a 2-hour movie does a better job of giving its characters depth and sympathy than a 110-page story, but many of the personalities in the graphic novel are caricatures drawn in broad strokes. There is little mystery or nuance to any of but the main characters, with a lot of gruff soldiers particularly interchangeable. The new characters added by Joon-ho in the movie, and there are many that are different from the graphic novel, add a lot more weight and interest to the story. Whereas in the book, almost all the antagonists are alcoholic, vicious, lewd, or some combination thereof. The upcoming TV series should be able to add more profound character arcs to the tale.
The million-dollar question, which is better? I leave that answer to you.
Snowpiercer is an action-adventure film with social commentary. Transperceneige is a social commentary that's set about an unstoppable train. The film's story necessarily ends when we get to the engine with Curtis and contemplate his future and the train itself.
So what is Snowpiercer? It's actually a story about the humanity, its ugly side and its justified side and everything in between. This graphic novel shows humanity in a light that you might be too ashamed to consider, but if you let it, it can give some food for thought and perhaps even some enlightenment. Some of the story needs an expansion, which I think will be addressed in the upcoming volumes. Also, this was the first time I actually read a European comic. I felt this was a great introduction to me. So all those who are seeking science fiction and a somewhat extremely cold story can definitely pick the Snowpiercer. Congrats to the giveaway winners. Stay tuned for more awesome giveaways in the upcoming month. In the meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for the notifications. Thank you. Goodbye.